This episode is brought to you by Struzy Golf. Hey coaches out there, what I'm about to share with you is for the 1% who are ready to finally take their business to the next level. If you're ready to grow and evolve as a business owner, keep listening. I'm a coach just like you. I want more time to invest in my players, build my skills, and spend it with my family. We also both struggle with the idea of taking time off and sacrificing revenue. Coaches like us need tools to save time, automate admin tasks, and deliver excellent player experiences every single time. What if I told you there is a platform that captures 37% net new revenue in the first 60 days? It only takes 5 minutes to set up, and a simple copy-paste puts the rest on autopilot. As a founder and CEO of your business, you would fire yourself for not taking advantage of this value. Download a Struzy right now and start the journey to modernizing your business. Oh, and when you create your account, don't forget to add an asterisk, that little star thing on your keyboard, to your last name so they know the guru sent you. If you aren't convinced just yet, keep listening to learn more. Now let's get back to the show.
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. You're like a miniature Buddha covered in hair.
I want to become a guru so girls will like me. Then I will like myself.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules. Rule number 1, no touching of the hair or face.
Of course.
And that's it! Now let's do this!
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Golf Guru Show. I'm your host, Jason Sutton, and I am the Guru. I'm also the Director of Instruction at the beautiful Colleton River Club in Bluffton, South Carolina, where it is my mission to break down high performers in the teaching and coaching business in all fields of study, unpack and tease out what makes them great and successful, and then share it with all of you guys out there and make us all better together. Make sure that you download this episode and hit that purple subscribe button so you don't miss out on future episodes that will be coming your way. All I ask is that you share this podcast on social or with your friends and with other coaches and players that might benefit from the information. My guest tonight is Ryan Mouque. Ryan is an instructor from Australia who grew up in New Zealand playing competitive rugby as a kid, which led him to Australia. He pursued his passion in golf at an early age and then learned very quickly that he wanted to be a coach, which has led him on his incredible journey. What I admire most about Ryan is his intense passion for learning and personal development. His success journey includes countless certifications and tons of hours shadowing top coaches, which takes a huge sacrifice and money, obviously. And in my opinion, he is the model for young coaches wanting to improve their skills as instructors. The names on his list of coaches that he spent time with is very impressive, with the likes of Dana Dahlquist, Tony Ruggiero, Preston Combs, Jeff Smith, Chris Mason, Chris Como, Alan Terrell, and James Seekman. Ryan is also certified in TPI Level 1, Level 2 coach, and junior coach, Wedge Matrix, which is James Ridyard's certification, Skilled Coaching Alliance, and much, much more. That's just to name a few. He now coaches primarily online using the Skillest app. So I was very curious how he communicated with his students, how he trained them, and the process of his lessons, which is very informational. And we go deep into much more technical information as well. So I won't bore you anymore with this long intro. Let's get to this awesome conversation with Ryan Mouque. Enjoy. Ryan, welcome to the show, man. Thanks so much for taking the time. This is going to be a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to this.
Mate, thank you for having me. It's exciting to be on. So very, very humbled for you to have me on. It's exciting.
My pleasure. Before we started recording, we were just talking about the difference because you're in Australia. Welcome as my first Australian guest, which is pretty cool. But I'm curious because we were texting earlier last couple of days and you said, I'm up at 4:00 in the morning. So what's going on at 4? Like, give me your morning routine.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's easier to get up at 4 when it's like 25 Celsius, right? It's pretty warm in the mornings. The sun comes up really early. I've got a dog that requires walking all the time. He's a Siberian Husky. So yeah, I mean, I just get up, I get in the gym so that, I can get started with my day. I like to get started early. It gives me more time in the day. I try to do a lot in the day. So obviously the later you wake up, the less time you've got. So I just like to get started early. I've never been a late riser. So yeah, get after it. And like I said, the sun comes up so early. Like if you sleep till 6, you feel like you've slept till 10. So
you got to close your blinds, right? It's like staying in a hotel. If you don't, I mean, you're going to wake up anyways, probably. And you said it gets dark at 7:30.
Yep.
So what time do you go to bed?
I typically go around like 9 o'clock. Yeah, I'll jump in bed at 9 and read to put myself to sleep. But yeah, 9:30. I'm a pretty early sleeper, and then obviously get up pretty early as well. So yeah.
Do you have a gym in your house, or do you have to go out to the gym?
No, I've got a gym. I changed one of the rooms around and put a gym in there. I've got everything I need. So yeah, easy to do. Yep.
That's incredible. Like, I'm so fascinated with your career path at this point. We'll get into it, but it's like, you don't have a boss. Right, you're your own boss. You've got to be a self-starter. Yeah. Right. So like now you got your gym in your house. You don't even have to leave. Right. You just DoorDash everything, and like you get a little food in you, and you just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like there's some positives to it, obviously, but there's also some negatives. Like you just said, like you never leave. It's like, I'll live inside my house. So I gotta go outside at some point. But no, it's I get outside plenty, but yeah, so it's exciting, the journey that I'm on, so for sure.
Very cool. So let's start, before we get into some of the teaching stuff that we're going to talk about and have some fun talking about, give the listeners that haven't heard you, because you've been on a lot of podcasts lately and you're kind of an up-and-coming coach, which I'm aware of, give them the brief sort of lineage that you've gone on in your journey to get to where you are right now.
Yeah, so, I did my traineeship from 2013 to 2015. So basically 13, 14. Yeah, 2016, I think, was my first year full-time coaching. So I got out of the pro shop pretty quickly, realized I didn't want to be in there. I was never a pro shop person. I found it quite detrimental to my coaching too, because you'd be in there and as a coach, you want to be helping people with their games, and all of a sudden you're fixing their spikes in their shoes, and you're just kind of like, this isn't matching up, right? So yeah, I did my shop hours as most people would have done to supplement their income, but I soon got out of that probably within the first 6 to 12 months of being a coach. And yeah, I did all the normal stuff. I did all my clinics. I did all my junior stuff. Yeah, I taught club members and still do. But yeah, I don't do any of the junior stuff or the clinic stuff anymore. But that was always fun at the time because I really wanted to get busy. My goal was to get busy. That was what I thought I wanted to do. I thought, I just want to teach sun up to sundown. And in Australia here, in Queensland in particular, like in the summer, you don't want to teach sun up to sundown. It's baking hot. And that was probably part of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now. But yeah, 6 years at one club doing that, learned a lot, failed, succeeded, did all that kind of stuff. And then I basically just left my role at the start of, I can't remember the year, start of last year. What was last year? 2022. Yeah.
22. Yeah.
I left that. And the reason I left it was because I'd kind of done what I needed to there. I felt I'd done what I needed to. I couldn't really go any further there, just with the size of the facility and things like that. And me and one of the tour pros that I coach, he wanted to come to the States and do some Mondays. He wanted to try Monday onto a Corn Ferry event or a PGA Tour event or both. And I said, well, look, I'm keen to leave where I'm at. Why don't I come with you? And while you're playing, I'll help coach you, caddy you. We'll have a good time together there. But in the off weeks, I'm going to go and shadow the best coaches in the US.
Right. We're going to get into that.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Did he pay you to do that? I mean, how could you afford to do that? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So, he didn't get paid for it.
That's what I mean. That's like, you can't just leave your job typically and just go and say, I'm going to be your caddy or coach and not get paid. I mean, you must have saved up a good amount of money at your job.
Yeah, we've got a pretty good relationship. We're good friends, and obviously I coach him. And yeah, he had money that he had sponsors pay, so he did a fundraising event at his club, and he got a fair amount of cash. And I just did it off my own bat. I just invested in myself and said, look, I'm going to get this back one day. It's fine. So I didn't expect any money from him, mate. To be honest, maybe if he made a PGA Tour event and win, we'll have that conversation. but no, I just did it off my own bat, and yeah, it's fine. I think a lot of coaches should do that if they can.
Absolutely. No, I think I applaud you for it. I talk a lot about for young coaches, on this podcast is one, you got to get experience, like what you did, right? Just teach as much as you can because that's the only way you're really going to learn. And then two, go and shadow other top coaches. And you've done that in spades. I mean, I'm really impressed by your story and your journey so far. It's really, really cool. It reminds me a lot of myself at your age. I think you should be applauded for that for sure.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So as this is happening, at one point, did you start to go and visit other coaches? Was it after your relationship ended with this tour player or was it during? I mean, how did that come about?
No, we've still got a good relationship. I still coach him to this day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So basically, like, we'd go and play an event. So obviously, you're familiar with all the Mondays. You know, you fly and for a PGA Tour event, right? You've got to qualify on the Thursday to get into the Monday. So
the prequel.
The prequel for the prequel, right? So I mean, it was just basically in weeks where I had some time up my sleeve, and he had maybe 2 weeks off, and I said, "Well, let me message Seekman and let's go and get a flight." But it was spur of the moment things. I would go from LA to wherever just on a Monday and go see the coach on Tuesday. Like, there was people that saw me do it. They were like, "Oh, so how much organizing was prior?" I was like, "I'll tell you right now, there was zero organizing prior." I literally messaged the coach while I was in the States and said, and I said to everyone who I messaged, I said, "Look, if you tell me a date and a day, I will fly. Even if it's the day before, I'll find a flight, Southwest, and I'll just fly. Like, it'll be what it'll be."
So
and
good.
There were some dodgy hotels and some dodgy times and Uber drivers at 2 a.m. that weren't the greatest, but one went on the highway the wrong way and asked me where to go. And I was like, "Dude, I don't know where I am, mate. I'm on the other side of the world." So that was interesting. So he stopped in the middle of a highway to find out where to go. And I was like, "I'm dying right here." So, yeah.
So let's go down the list of the guys that you saw. I know there's more and there's certifications, and these are all like friends of mine and huge influences on my career as well. So it's a pretty awesome list. You got Scott Cowks, one of my favorites, Double D, Dana Dahlquist. You got Rosario, another classic, Jeff Smith, James Seekman, Alan Terrell, good buddy of mine, and then Como. It's pretty hard to put together another list of coaches right there that you couldn't glean some knowledge from.
Yeah. You mentioned Cowks there. I didn't go and see Cowks.
Did you just do his certification? Is that because I've heard you talk about him?
Yeah, I've done, I think, 5.0 or something like that. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Well, yeah. So almost, right? It's
almost.
Virtually.
Yeah.
Which I've done like all of those as well. It's amazing. So the question, and obviously there's a lot of directions we can go in this, and I'm curious about a lot of it, but when I was doing that, when I was coming up through the ranks, or if I was just going to be in the room with another top coach, I would always have questions that were prepared. Share with the listeners, and this is great for young coaches that are going to do that and go try to learn from other coaches, is what were some of the questions that you had prepared for that coach? And also, could you share maybe some of the experiences you had and what you learned from any stories that you have? I think would be interesting.
Yes, in regards to the questions, like, I went in with a very open mind. I didn't have too many questions for the coaches. I just wanted to sit there and watch. I really wanted to just be a fly on the wall. And my whole point of doing it was, what are the best coaches in this? Why are they succeeding so much, right? Like, obviously, Dana right now working with Bryson, like, what makes Dana so damn good? What makes Jeff Smith so damn good? And what I found was they just knew what they were doing, right? Like, they had their systems in place. When a player comes in, they know what P1 should look like. They know what P2 should look like. Like, not just look like, but their preferences around parts of the golf swing that they want to do, short game, how they teach short game, what they want to see. There was no guessing, right? There was no guessing as to what the student should, like, "Oh, let's try this." It was just like, no, this is what we need to do. And once the player did it.
Confidence, right?
Yeah, once the player did it, like, it was a done deal. Like, I was watching Jeff Smith give some short game coaching to a player who was just not spinning the ball at all. And within a couple of swings, like, he's got this thing razzing too much. Like, it's things like that where I'm like, okay, cool. Like, now I get to understand that these guys know what they're talking about. They're confident in what they teach and they get results from it. So, and their communication was unbelievable. Preston Combs was one of the best communicators I've come across.
Good buddy of mine. Yeah. I've raised that young man, as you probably already know.
Yeah. So, like, does 3-hour putting things in his garage. And I'm like, how's he going to fill in 3 hours of time here? And mate, like you could have gone for 6 hours. So, whereas I think most coaches would struggle with 3 hours. Like, what do you do with a player for 3 hours? And that's where I think Preston was like, this is what I do in my first hour. This is what I do in my second hour. This is what I do in my third hour. So they know what they're doing, which was a big takeaway.
Yeah, for sure. So what were some of the, like any other nuggets that you gleaned, and like, how did you organize your, I guess, feedback that you got? Did you take notes? Like when people come shadowing me, I'm always impressed if they actually take notes. And then did you do like a follow up with any of them to ask them questions? You know what I'm saying? Like after you've watched them coach, like, hey, why did you do this? Like, I mean, I think there's got to be a process of how you're going to learn them, get the most out of your time.
Yeah, so took notes basically every session there. And most of the coaches I had dinner with afterwards, which was really good fun. Like Seekman as a good example. I loved watching Seekman. I took a lot away from him. Probably one of the best coaches I've seen in person give lessons. Just super direct, doesn't take any crap. Like just, if you're seeing him, you're seeing him. You're not, he would tell the student right there, get off the hamster wheel if you're on it, right? Like if you're coming to see me, get off that hamster wheel. He'd give them notes, you know, like all these little things, still on paper, no email, no nothing like that, just still on paper. And, you know, I went and had plate of wings with them for dinner, and yeah, we're just like asking questions there. Not only just coaching questions, but business questions too. Like obviously,
absolutely,
as a coach, I think it's important to run a successful coaching business, because if you don't, you're going to get burnt out and you're not going to be able to do it for much longer. You're not going to be able to do what you're passionate about if you don't run a successful business. So yeah, really asking a lot of questions around that. And, you know, like Jeff Smith, for example, like he uses a lot of stats with his players and like almost non-negotiables. And that's another thing that I think I took away from the great coaches was they've just got non-negotiables. If you want to see that coach, you must do it their way or within reason or not at all, right? So like if you're a tour player who goes and sees Jeff Smith, you will be taking your stats because that's going to help Jeff coach that player to the best of their ability. So yeah, it was awesome.
What were some of the business takeaways? Do you remember like any of the sort of the bullet points of what you learned?
Yeah, I guess like talking to Como, I spoke to Como about this and I said like, what's something that you would have done 10 years ago had you had known? And he basically said, you know, he would have loved to have built some more products so that you're not just selling time for money all the time. So having something in the background working for you is a big benefit.
So I mean like training aids, you mean? Is that what you're talking about?
Not necessarily training aids, but yeah, like obviously if you can develop something, like for example, like I've got a couple of products now, like my Ultimate Guide to Practice. It's a video series based on, like whenever I give lessons to players, right, like I always talk to them about how to practice. Like information's one thing, but if they don't know how to practice, how to slow things down, the steps they need to take in order to transfer their range game to the course, then it's kind of hard to get results. So I was like, well, I teach this daily. I say the same words daily. I say the same sentences daily. So I was like, why can't I put this into a package for someone? And if they've ever got that question, I'm like, look, I'm happy to talk to you about it, but I've also got it right there. You've got all my knowledge from the last 8 years of coaching on how to transfer your range game to the course. It's right there. Right. So,
and make them pay for it.
Yeah. But like, not just make them pay for it, but they want that information. They need that information.
No. Yeah, absolutely. It's smart.
And it's there for them. Yeah. So little things like that, I think are beneficial for a coach as opposed to just always, I guess, doing it one-on-one, let's call it.
Yeah. We call that passive income, right? It's like you want to, and I haven't done the best job of that. I've working on this podcast a little bit, but you know, it's making money when you're not working, right? It's like, that's the ultimate goal. And I know you've talked about that in some of your other talks, is trying to find some balance so you can be more effective for your players. And I've done that a lot really in the last 10 years, I would say, but I think that's really, really smart. And I was going to bring all that up. You're sort of skipping ahead of all my notes.
Sorry, my bad.
No, you're fantastic. But yeah, practice plans and so forth and the modules that you've built is just smart, right? Especially with what you're doing now, so we can kind of catch the listeners up, that you're pretty much 100% online. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, 100% online now, yep.
Yeah, and you know, what I'm really impressed with what you do, and I was actually talking to another professional today about what you're doing because you're going to come on, and one, you got to have the time. Like you couldn't do what you do with like a normal club job. Because I've tried to do that, right? You just don't, it'd be like, working 2 jobs, you never sleep at all. But the amount of care that you take for your students and like the amount of follow up that you have to do being an online coach is phenomenal. So sort of take us through like how you transition first off into your skillest business. And then I've got a lot of questions on sort of your process of how you give a lesson, which I think would be fascinating.
Yeah, so how it all come about. So I've been on skillest pretty much since the get-go, to be fair, and never did anything with it. Didn't need it at the time. And then when I got back from the States, funnily enough, I tried to get an in-person role here in Southeast Queensland. And the clubs that I rang would say to me, we've already got coaches, we don't need any more. So I said, okay, cool, no worries. And I was like, man, this is proving really difficult to get a job. I've got all this knowledge I want to impart onto students and other coaches, and no one's letting me in. Like, not because they don't like me. It was just everyone's full. Like, jobs were taken. So I was like, all right, what can I do? So I got hold of Baden from Skills and I said to him, look, mate, I want to really give online a go. And look, at the end of the day, it was just, I was trying to do something so I could at least make a little bit of money before going back into coaching in person. And the thing just took off. I mean, I made it a point to myself when I got back from the States, one realization I had, like, I won't tell you how much I spent on that States trip, but it was a lot of money. And
I can imagine.
Yeah, I didn't make a cent for 6 months. I want other coaches to understand this, right? I quit my job in, I think it was January, and we were meant to go in March. And Tourplay actually had to play a couple more events to kind of keep his card. So you had to play a minimum number of events. So he's like, dude, I have to do these events. And I'm like, oh, like, just quit my job. Like, all right, no worries at all. So then we leave in May, June, July, August. I get back home. We actually go back over to Corn Ferry Q School. So anyway, long story short, I didn't make a cent for 6 months, not a cent. It was pretty easy to give to my accountant that year. I basically said, where's your income the last 6 months? Nothing. All right. So I was like, okay, like I need to start making some money again. So I said to myself, I need money to come in when I'm not on a lesson tee, when I'm not physically driving my car to a golf club and I'm standing on a lesson tee. If I'm not doing that, I'm not getting anything coming in. So I was like, okay. So I started this online thing and I just said to myself, look, and I've had a lot of coaches ask me this question, like, how did you grow? And I said, I posted one thing every day for a year, right?
On Instagram or just social in general?
Everything.
Yeah.
Every social media channel there is. And normally people will stop after like 2 weeks because there's no likes or there's no follows or whatever. And I just kept posting. I don't care about the likes. I don't do it for the likes. That doesn't faze me. If a video gets 0 likes, it literally doesn't faze me. I just want to continue to put content out there because if one person watches it and they can improve from it, or if they see me and they want to do some work with me, that's a success. So I just posted one thing every day for the next 365 days. It got shared by some pretty good guys. Mike Carroll from Fit for Golf. He was massive in my growth. And yeah, it blew up. And in 2 months, I had literally a full lesson diary online. And I couldn't keep up with it, to be honest with you.
Wow.
So, I mean, that alone gave me more content too. Because if I'm doing 10 lessons a day, you've got so much content to put out. I could have put 2 or 3 pieces out every day. But that's how it started. And here we are still going. I didn't think I'd still be going right now. Like I thought, okay, it's 6 months down the track. They'll all leave. And yeah, I got more students than ever now. And it's now created a life for me that I'm really enjoying. And you said at the start, like, I don't have a boss. I don't like, and look, at the end of the day, like it's still quite tough getting into facilities over here in Australia. Like not a lot of people want to allow you in and out, to be honest with you. Like it's very difficult, like to shoot content. It's very difficult. So I'm making it work, but yeah, that's how it all grew.
Yeah. What's keeping you in Australia?
Not much, to be fair. Not much. My dog. Yeah, not much to
married,
be honest.
right?
Yeah. No.
Right. So yeah, you're in a great time of your life to where you can have the freedom to make those decisions, and you've got a traveling business now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before I ask you the most important question, we get into some swing stuff. Take us through your process of how you get a new student, and then we'll get into some details, but just the general process, because I think it's pretty cool how you do it without actually being there with the student. So give us some slight details on that if you could.
How I would give a lesson online?
Exactly. Like the whole start to finish, like the process of how they get the videos to you. And I know you've talked about giving them a task and then saying, hey, I'm not giving you anything else until you send me a video back. That sort of format I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah, so obviously this is going to depend on the package they sign up to, but let's assume they sign up to the premium package I've got.
Yeah, the premium would get everything.
Yeah. So unlimited coaching, right? So what I would first do is if I see an email come through, someone signed up, beautiful, I get in touch with them and I say, hey, when you're ready or ASAP, let's jump on a Zoom call. Because the first thing I want to do is, number one, I want to get to know the student. I want to know, obviously, all their golfing stuff, but I also want to know the coaching they've had in the past. I want to know how much time they've got to devote to practice, what the facilities are like that they can practice at, because that's also going to dictate what we do in the lesson, right? If someone's only got, like, I play 5 times a week and practice once, well, let's talk about the process that we're going to use to better your golf swing with not a lot of practice and mostly play. Whereas if someone is like, I play once every fortnight, but I practice every day, well, that's a little bit easier to make changes because they're hitting a ball all the time. So I'll talk to them about a bunch of different things on a Zoom call first. And then what we'll do is we'll send the videos in. So Skillest will allow you to upload as many videos as you want. I normally ask for a down the line and a face on of driver and 7-iron, right? I want to get to know what the movement patterns are like with both those clubs. And along with if they've got TrackMan numbers or if they've got any stats, like I want everything. I want to know exactly what you do from the get-go. And then I treat everyone as if I'm going to have them for long term, right? I don't like treating someone as in like, all right, I've got a month to just change their life, right? Like I'm assuming that player will stick with it. Some of them don't, like, let's be honest, some of them don't. But for those that commit to it, they can make some serious improvements. So I like to do my first analysis is pretty in-depth. I'll talk to them about what they're doing, why they're doing it, why the golf shots are doing, why their contact's poor, why the ball flight's poor. And then I'll get to the root cause of why they're doing it. So I think a lot of the times from what I've heard on a lot of Zoom calls is they'll say that they typically, in the past, they've gone to a coach, they've got the lesson, they've been sent on their way with the drills, and the communication's 0 in 1 to 2 months, right? That's the typical experience.
If they don't come back right away.
And even if they do, even if they come back in a month, let's call it, right? The coach hasn't communicated with them in that month. So they've basically just been sent on their way with the drill that they did on the range. So, and as we know, some people overdo drills and some people underdo drills. So,
or don't do them at all.
Or don't do them at all, right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, like, you could spend 2 weeks doing the drill incorrectly, and you could do 2 weeks doing the drill, like overdoing the drill, and all of a sudden you've got a new error or issue in your swing. So let's say that this player has a setup issue, right? They're kind of crossed up, upper body's tilting towards target. Yeah, the common setup pattern we get, grips weak, etc., right? No rotation. So what I'll do with that student is I will send a video back to them with me in front of a camera going, right, let's work on our setup. Let's nail that because that's affecting our takeaway. Takeaway's affecting P3, all this other kind of stuff, right? And then from there, they're going to send back a video within a day or maybe 2 days of them setting up to a golf ball. Now, I won't move forward until I'm happy that that setup is in a good place, and then we will work on the next piece. Now, don't get me wrong. If they are really struggling with ball striking and they're just not hitting the ball great, we can, of course, provide them with some external drills like, hey, let's put an alignment stick in the ground so we can just swing under it or whatever it might be. But we need to have that bigger picture in mind and say, look, your setup is not allowing you to do what you want in the swing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was curious about the communication piece, whether it was just through text, which I'm sure there's some of that, or was it you always actually doing what you want them to do, which obviously could be challenging.
I got my phone on a tripod saying, hey, Jason, hope you're well, mate. Here's what I want you to do. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's the face on. Here's the down the line. And then in between all those lessons, they can message, they can voice note. I can send back another analysis if I see fit.
Yeah, that's where like having that time to do it is crucial. That's what I found when I was doing online lessons and teaching 10 hours a day. It's like it wasn't a very seamless communication flow because I was like, man, I might not get this guy for 2 days. So that's like what you do a really, really good job with is getting back to, I know you said within 24 to 28 hours. That's phenomenal. like to make it as good as you can, right?
I think that's the balance, mate. Like, obviously, that's where me being full-time online does help me. I've always said I don't actually have the time to go back to in-person. Like, I've got that many lessons every day that when I wake up, that's why I wake up early, because I get started early. And yeah, if I did 8 hours of in-person coaching, my online would definitely take a hit for sure. So there is a balance.
You'd have to cut it off.
Yeah.
It'd be a decision to make there. This episode of the Golf Guru Show is brought to you by our new partners, Astruzi. Listen up, coaches. What I'm about to share is different than what you've come to expect from the guru. Normally, I'm the one asking the perfect questions to tease out the secrets, tips, and lessons learned from the best and brightest in our industry has to offer. This time around, I want to share some perspective. You know you're a business owner, right? You're a solopreneur. You're the founder, CEO, admin, sales, and marketing department. Like you, I often daydream about a world where these no longer consume our valuable time and energy. All of this takes us away from high-value time in the lab developing our players. If some days you feel like Bill Murray from Groundhog Day and your business is slowly sending you into an early grave, well, thankfully, I can say from personal experience, relief is only 5 minutes away. And I know you have 5 minutes. Coaches, if you have a Gmail account, an iPhone or an iPad, have your own LLC, constantly switch between 4 to 5 different services to run your business, charge at least $70 per lesson, or deliver at least 15 hours of lessons per week, then pay close attention because I'm talking directly to you. Astruzi is a business management platform where you finally offload all those wasted hours in admin tasks and get back to doing what we love, coaching your players, nerding out on ball flight laws, and about a million other things you would prefer more. If your business would benefit from 37% net new revenue, Astruzi is for you. If you struggle to build accountability with your players and dream of staggering 71.4% swing analysis viewer rate, Astruzi is for you. If you want a platform that protects and amplifies the decades of experience instead of allowing players to window shop 5 different coaches only to choose the cheapest one or the cheapest option, Astruzi is for you. If you have no idea where to begin, Astruzi is for you. I personally have an account and can vouch for the value that Astruzi delivers. The download link is in the show notes, or head to astruzi.com to download the app. When you create your account, don't forget to add an asterisk to your last name so they know that the guru sent you. Go to astruzi.com today. I want to try this question. Let's see how this goes, because it's always difficult, because this is a teacher-to-teacher podcast. And to kind of get some more of the meat of like how you teach, right? And I know we talked about preferences that we like. And I've heard you talk about this, and I totally agree. It's like, if you don't think you have preferences, then you're lying to other coaches or you're lying to your students, because we do, right? So is there a lesson, like a new student lesson you've had in the last few days that you can remember and take us through the technical piece of what you did with that student? Or you can use maybe a week or week and a half example of like sort of start to finish, how you train that player, how you want them to train, because I think we have a lot of similarities in how we train our players. So it'd be interesting to kind of get into that. Can you do that for me?
I can try.
Start with the goal. Start with the beginning. Like, what's the goal for the player? What's the skill level? So you can kind of just paint the picture of that player and then the direction you're going to take them.
So the classic one is obviously I hit big pulls and big slices, right? So without even seeing that swing, I know that they are likely to be under-rotated and probably laid off at the top. That's just a guess of mine, because that's from what I've seen after almost 5,000 lessons, like that's typically the result. So that student, obviously, I'm trying to shallow it out. I'm trying to hit a draw. I can't do it. I've tried everything. Okay, cool. Let's have a look at it. And from there, so I know that their goal is to draw a golf ball, right? Let's just call it that. And obviously we can communicate more in regards to what their scoring goals are and all this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, we're just talking about changing ball flight, right? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Like, take us through that player and what you did with them and what you think is important.
Yeah, so, and I can see the student in my mind, actually. So after I see that, right, so they're slicing it. Okay, cool. I look at them and their setup is exactly what I think it is. It's upper body tipped over towards target. Let's say trail hip higher than lead hip. Weak grip, right? Partly left hand weak. And also because they're tilted over towards the target, trail hand is weak as well, right? So from there, they're not going to rotate the body that well. So what happens is everything needs to be done with arms, right? So they kind of separate the arms a little bit away from the body. They kind of have a lot of forearm roll, tipping over, right? Their body is tipping over towards the target, which is going to not allow them to get their arms deep enough. Club face is open at the top, it's laid off, and then, of course, from there, it's kind of struggle street, because then they try and rotate. Everyone loves the word rotation, right?
Especially on the downswing.
Yeah, especially in the downswing. So we've got someone who's under-rotated in the backswing, no depth with the arms, and they're trying to rotate on the way down, right? So what's rotation going to do to that kind of golfer? It's going to present a really steep kind of, not necessarily over the top, but a steep downswing. Club face is open, shaft is moving through maybe torso area. And then all of a sudden, what do, right? They have to back up and they have to create some room. So they get on the back foot, they cut across it. If the face is closed to the path, which is out to in, they're going to pull it. And if the face is open, they're going to slice it. So that is one of the most common lessons I'll give a player. And so I'll explain that to them too. Like I'll take them through that journey of,
that's the analysis, right? And then you go into like, what do we have to do to change that?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll do, like I'll tidy up the setup and grip. Okay. And I think if we tidy up the setup and grip, we get a lot of other things for free, right? We've got a better club face position. The other thing they'll do on that downswing too is like cast it, right? So they've got no quote unquote lag.
They're throwing it.
Yep, they're throwing it. So, and I'll talk to them about that too. I'll say, look, open face, you're going to need to throw it to square the face up. If you lean the shaft, face is going to be open. Like it's just, so everything you've tried to do for the last 2 years without a coach, you've wasted your time because you haven't got to the root cause.
Yeah.
So, because they're not going to watch a video on grip and setup. They're just not, right? It's not fancy enough. I don't need it. I don't need help on that. I steepen it. So anyway, so I'll go into setup and grip. So I'll get them a little bit more lead side pushed forward with the lower body, upper body tilted slightly behind ball. I'll get lead hand more on top, trail hand more underneath. That's going to fix up the club face with all things being equal. But from there, I would then teach them how to rotate the body a bit better. So getting the lower body to rotate better, getting the lead arm a little bit more across the chest, and potentially, obviously, if they're tipping over towards the target, trying to feel like they're almost moving the center of their sternum over towards the right shoe as a feeling, right? So once they've done that, they're going to be in a pretty decent backswing position with a stronger club face to then swing that club a little bit more from the inside with a little bit more of a face close to the path. And all of a sudden, like they don't have to throw the club, they don't have to hang back, and all of a sudden they can start to get that golf ball moving from right to left. And that might sound easy to do. It's not. It's not easy.
Especially when you're just doing a video and then showing them and then they got to like do it, right? It's like you can't put your hands on them. You can't be there to like see to answer their questions right away. Like you better be really damn good at getting that message across, right? To get them to actually change.
Yeah. So there's a few steps to that. But then obviously, once they start to see that ball moving from right to left, they're hooked, right? Like, and look, it might not be a perfect golf swing to start. Like I might get them trying to hook the golf ball a little bit. They've never seen it move from right to left, right? So get that body in order, get the grip in order, and you'll be surprised at what things you can change. And like I said, a lot of the time, once you've done setup and grip, you may actually get a lot of things for free. You don't have to mention too many other things. And then obviously from there, right, like, what about driver? It's more difficult with driver because you're swinging it faster. But yeah, that's what a typical lesson for someone who slices it, who lays it off and under rotates. That's pretty much what will happen.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, very classic of what I see too. I got an older demographic in my membership, and getting them to rotate is often a challenge for sure. So I like the way you train your players too, and we'll get into practice as well, but comment on some of the things, and I'm not going to lead you on this one because I think we're very similar, but some of the things that you tell players to do during their practice to make that pattern change.
Yeah, so I like to start in front of a mirror, and I try to teach this stuff, right? I say, look, get in front of a mirror with no golf ball and get into your setup position and prove to yourself that that setup is exactly what you want, right? And I want you to send that back to me. I don't want to see you hit a ball. Send that back to me. So from there, right, I say to them, if you can do it in front of a mirror, great. Let's now put obviously if they've got a club in the hand, let's now put a ball down in front of you. Let's do it over a golf ball. And obviously, if we're going a little bit further than the setup, and let's say we're working on some backswing stuff, we're rotating, what I want them to do is do a few pause swings. So pause or freezer swings. So I want
Freezers,
them to,
yep.
yeah. So, and this can be done in front of a mirror too, right? Like I would want them to get in front of that mirror and get to the top of the golf swing or even like P3, 3/4 of the way back. And I would want them to see what a stronger club face looks like. I'd want them to see what a lead arm more across the chest looks like and feels like. So I want them to really immerse themselves in what they are doing, right? And I think that players that can make changes really quickly understand what they are doing. And if you're a golfer who says to yourself, I can't feel the difference between the two, then we're in trouble, because then essentially like you don't know which is good or bad. So what I'll then get them to do is prove to me they can do a freezer swing. So once they can do a freezer swing, I say, cool, let's do a slow motion swing. Now, so I'll say to them, like, freezer swing, you pause at the top for, say, 3 seconds. Give your brain some time to compute what's going on, what it feels like, and then just come down and hit a ball. It doesn't matter where the ball goes. Slow swings aren't designed for hitting flush golf shots. I just want the body movement to change. And that might be through some video feedback, putting it on video and saying to yourself, right, I just want to see this golf swing moving a little bit differently. And then I'll say to them, do some slow-mo swings. So slow-mo would be where you don't pause, but go as slow as you can, right? Like, and I'm yet to see a player actually go slow enough. Like,
no, they can't do it.
They can't do it. They've never done it before, right? They've
Right,
never done it
yeah.
before. So once they've done some slow-mo stuff, I'll then say, right, kick it up a notch. Let's go at about 50% speed. And this is where I'll educate players and say, look, when you go faster, when you start to go to 50% speed, when you're looking at it on camera or on video, whatever, you will start to see the old pattern come back, because the faster you do it, the more the old pattern wants to take over. And that's why I always say to people, this is why it's super important that you go slow first before you go fast. Whereas most golfers take a lesson and then go to the range and do it fast. Or they take a lesson, they don't even go to the range and they go and play, right? And it's just like, look, great that you're trying to improve, but like, it's not how it works. Maybe every now and again you get a player who comes out and shoots the lights out and goes, my lesson was amazing. It's like, great, but not that often. So, and I always try and educate players on that. I always say, look, when you do go 100% speed, you will probably not look anything like your pause swing, but that's okay. That's okay. We just need to continue to do the slow stuff and then incorporate the faster stuff. And I give them a certain, kind of like practice plan to do that as well.
So where did you learn that? Like, you haven't seen me teach, or you'd have seen a lot of that very same process, but like, just curious of like, why do you think that's important and where did you get that from?
I think very early on, I studied a lot of game like training. So Ian Highfield so Ian Highfield was big on that. And where else would I have seen that? Just from the studies and stuff early on, right? Like everything said to go slow. And you think about, like, obviously the brain can't, everything's happening so quickly in a golf swing that the only way for the brain to actually understand what's going on is to slow it down. The hard thing about that is it takes discipline. It's not easy to do. People get bored very quickly. And I think that's why, like, maybe we get into this a bit more, but that's why I like training into a net or into a screen for the start, because takes the ball flight out of play. People get so scared of that ball flight. And that's the way I kind of like to train students. And I've seen a lot of success from it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I know there's a lot of coaches out there that might not agree with that, but I mean, I think we do things because we see success, right? It's like why do we have preferences? Because hopefully not to make the swing look pretty, but we've seen that, hey, this matchup and this matchup works for this typical problem or situation based on the student. So talk about your preferences a little bit. I mean, what if you had to go through, we've talked about setup, which I kind of get for the most part. I mean, what do you like to see in the backswing, transition, impact, and so on? Just curiosity.
Yeah, I mean, obviously good club positions. I think everyone likes to see that. I mean, if someone comes into your coaching space and has a good looking golf swing, I think everyone would kind of prefer that for sure. But I actually recently had someone come to me with a little bit of the Matt Wolf movement. And typically if someone has a bit of a Matt Wolf movement and then kind of rotates and steepens it, you kind of go, okay, maybe we have to teach them to transition at the top a little bit better. But this guy just shallowed it like so good. He just had a super weak grip when he did it. So the face was open when he kind of transitioned. So, and he actually said to me, I said to him, I'm going to leave that because I love that movement pattern. Your body's working well. And he said every coach he's been to has tried to change it. And I was like, okay, it's understandable. I can see why, because the takeaway's a little out in the way and trail arm. But I saw the movement pattern of his body work really well. And of course, as coaches, we study different looking golf swings, right? Like they work, like Matthew Wolff works. So what can we learn from him rather than just say, it's across the line, it's not good. So like my preferences would be, obviously, if you looked at the P system, right? Like not saying that I want everyone looking pure, but try to stay close to that within reason. But obviously when they are like, obviously ball flight rules everything. So if they're swinging it quite unique and then hitting it great, well, what's their bad shot? What's that maybe caused by? You may not have to go through all the P's to try and fix it up. You might just have to go straight to impact or straight to P5 or whatever it might be. So I think everyone, like you said, right, everyone's got their preferences, but I like to stay close to it within reason, but also obviously working with the player on how they move and things like that. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a tough question and it's a tough answer, honestly, because I've gotten that when I'm on the other side of the mic, but probably an easier question to answer is like, what do we don't like, right? I mean, it's I mean, do we like a shaft that's coming down, above the right shoulder at P5 pieces? Like, no. Like, I mean, it's just, there's things that, you can say, oh, well, this is, and there's always outliers. Yeah, it's interesting. I've spent a lot of time with Chris Como, and to go to your point there, as far as odd swings, and that was one of the things that stuck with me when we were talking about golf swings and some of his players. And he said, figure out why the odd swings work, right? It's like find a high level player that looks a little different and figure it out. And I coach one in Will McGirt, where I have not touched his backswing, and he's probably got one of the most vertical open club faces at the top of the swing on the PGA Tour. But I've learned how to sort of work around that because of his physical limitations. That's where one of our non-negotiables, right? So I think that's the genius of the coach. So you're on the right track there. It's almost an impossible question to answer.
Yeah, really.
I
think what you just said there was interesting. Like I always send a DM to Chris Mason when he's coaching Steele, right? And I'm always like, man, you need to fix his grip, right? Like I just joke with him because I'm like, and he just laughs because he always jokes about people sending him messages about that. And I'm just like, man, he's going nowhere with that, mate. Like you got to fix that, right? So, but the other thing is like when I saw Dana Dahlquist, like he teaches, like the way he spoke about the left shoulder moving off the golf ball, right? Like everyone wants this lead shoulder working down and under the chin, like. Dana will get it moving a little bit more level and to the right? Like when I was watching that, I was like, that's really interesting. And then when you find out why and how, his force production stuff, and it's interesting. And then another coach I talk to a lot, Stephen Giuliano, who's in Asia, who teaches obviously good players as well, but teaches a lot of beginners. And he is literally, I think, in my opinion, one of the best beginner beginner teachers, I should say, like teaches beginner golfers. He's literally the best in the world at it. Like he is incredible at changing movements in beginner golfers. And people think that beginner golfers are easy to work with. They are not. They can't move. And I message him quite a bit and I just see his transformations and I'm like, dude, you are literally the GOAT. Like, it's incredible what he can do. But he's got those preferences, right? And you wouldn't actually, I would say you probably wouldn't teach a tour player what he is teaching the beginner, but it's great for a beginner golfer to move their low point forward, their shaft a little bit more forward, club face onto the golf ball as opposed to the spinning out, flippy kind of no body movement. But then, like I said, he also transitions his coaching from, if he's teaching a beginner to the very next lesson, he's got a tour player in there. He was at Dana's day when I was, exactly. He was at Dana's
That's my day.
He was at Dana Dahlquist's day when I was there in LA. And he's upskilling himself too, like crazy. So he can teach both, which is great. And I've learned a lot from Steve as well and studied a lot of what he does as well. So,
I think the way I sort of transition that is you got to teach them how to use their hands and arms first. It's a totally opposite deal when you're teaching because I got a lot of beginners in my club and beginner ladies, which is even more fun to work with. So it's a definite art. But I mean, when I was coming up and working kind of at the beginning of my career, it's like that was what taught me the most about teaching golf is teaching beginners. They will definitely, expose you really quickly if you can't get him to hit the ball in the air and forward, right? So you got to be able to adapt. But yeah, that's pretty awesome. So what are some of your favorite drills? Like, I know, do you do like a drill module as well? I didn't go that deep into your website, but I'm sure you probably have some things. So based on, let's say, that pattern we talked about earlier, where, the open face, laid off, out to in player, what are some of your go-to drills for that particular player? Because I'm sure that would help 80% of the people we're teaching at our club.
Yeah, so obviously if we're talking about grip, like we can obviously put a training aid in their hand, get like a molded grip. We can easily do that. In regards to the setup, obviously talking to them about that. But I like a drill that I do a lot is 2 alignment sticks, right? So one across the shoulders, one across the lower body or in the belt loops, and getting that to turn 90-45. So 90 degrees with the upper body, 45 with the lower body. And I try and educate players on changing knee flex in order to get that little bit more rotation in the lower, because not a lot of people do it, right? So when they're under rotated, typically they try and rotate the upper body more and they get the arms behind them, and little do they know that keeping that right leg or that trail leg flexed for a long time is not really helping. So yeah, I do that drill a lot and try and educate players on that. I feel like that's almost like a daily activity for people to do.
100%.
I think that would be good. I was in New Zealand not long ago filming about 550 videos about that. I got something coming mid-2024. So it's something that I haven't really told anyone about yet. I'll tell you off air, but that will be coming. So in regards to like, have I got a series on drills? No, but it's coming.
That's smart. Yeah. That's another module that you can just go, hey, here you go. And that's what I did with Swing U for several years and did that same thing. You can attach it to your skillest thing, right? So you can get like whatever you're working on, say, hey, just attach this. Here's my drill. So it saves you time of going in the backyard and filming it again, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing is, like, obviously with the products I've got at the moment are all mainly around how to make a swing change. My most current one is indoor practice. So basically anyone that's snowed in, it's winter, could even be hot. No one wants to go outside. I've got a program with like 42 videos on everything to do with practicing inside. Drills, games, challenges. And then I've got my ebook, which has a ton of different like practice games to keep things interesting and to challenge you. So that's my products at the moment. But like I said, I've got something else coming that's going to be massive. So that's in the works. Yeah.
I like it. All right. So give us a downswing drill. All right. So we're assuming that everything's good from 1 to 4, huge part of the swing that, we work a lot with our players is that 4.5 to 5. For those who early transition phase, whatever you want to call it, what are your go-to drills to get players to shallow it out, let's say, swing more to the right?
Yeah. So I like 3 drills that I give players a lot, and I let them choose which one to use. I like giving them all 3 because I don't know which one's going to work best for someone. May work best with one and someone may work best for another. But number 1 would be, so let's assume that the player is rotating and spinning out, which is getting their lead arm, nice position at the top and then just straight over the top, steep, right, cutting across it. So I would go number 1, let's put an alignment stick in the ground, in line or at the same angle as your club sits at address. We're going to go 1 club length back from the golf ball, and we're going to place the alignment stick in the ground half a foot on the outside of the ball line and place it at the same angle the club sits at address. Now, what this will do, this is quite a scary little drill. Put a pool noodle over it because I don't want you coming down, smacking the stick and smacking your club. But what this will allow you to do is, number 1, it actually helps backswing too. It helps you get a little bit more rotation and more depth in the backswing. Yeah, obviously on the way down, the purpose is to keep that club underneath that alignment stick and coming into the golf ball. So if you spin out, everything will go above the stick. But if you keep it underneath, you'll actually find that transition, your body will stay closed for a little bit longer as you transition into that lead side, and the club will come more from in to out. That's one drill. Another drill that I'll use is, obviously you've got the golf ball that's on the ground that you're going to hit. And if you're looking for more in to out, I'd place a golf ball inside the ball on the ground and outside. So it'll kind of look like one kind of inside and to the left of the ball and one outside and to the right. So it's kind of like a bit of a diagonal, if that makes sense. Like a gate. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So you can try and swing that club through there. So it's almost like let me try and be American here, right? Everyone says swinging it out to, which base is it?
Oh, yeah, second
2
base.
o'clock,
Or
right?
the second baseman, or right field is probably
Right
the most
field.
popular.
There you go, right?
Swing to right field.
Yeah.
What would that be in rugby? I don't know.
Yeah, nah.
Right
no, we don't
goalpost.
use that over here. Yeah. So that would be the second drill that I'd give. So swinging it out to like 2 o'clock through that gate. And then the third one's actually one that, and I'll credit the coach that gave me this one, was Alex Riggs in Dubai. I would get them to put the ball literally off their back foot, right? Off their back toe. So just put the ball way back in your stance. And essentially what we're going to do there is when you turn, you're going to have to turn behind the golf ball, right? You can't reverse pivot into your lead side. So turn behind the golf ball. And in order to access that ball that's way back in your stance, you can't spin out. You can't just rotate the heck out of your upper body because you're going to miss the ball that's way back in your stance. So what you want to do is you want to get to the top, stay closed for as long as you can, get those arms and get those clubs coming down as you're transitioning, and your swing path will literally be like 15 degrees in to out, right? Now, a lot of people, I actually posted that on Twitter yesterday. It's actually my best performing tweet, which is crazy, or X, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So that produces, so long as the club face is closed to the pass, so you're going to have to learn to close the face, but that will produce a massive hook, right? Now, for someone who slices the golf ball, that's great. So for those who say, oh, but you're just going to hook the ball or you're going to block it, that's when I'll say, well, cool. Once you've learned how to do that, move the ball back to the center or back to wherever you play it from. Feel the same body movements on the way down, but now you've got the golf ball more towards the middle of the stance. Your path won't be as excessive in to out. So now you'll start to straighten it up a little bit. But basically, those would be the three drills that I help someone who kind of comes over the top and steepens everything.
Yeah, I love it. So how do you teach, let's say from the elbows down, somebody to, how do they change the face, right? Let's just say somebody's too open. Like, how do you explain to them or teach them to close the face, what I would call properly?
Yes, obviously it's going to start with grip, right?
We would say the grip's okay. Like, we're just saying, the fundamentals or the basics are okay. Like, during the motion, I'm always curious of like how people or how teachers coach that.
Yeah, so I mean, you can give them some external drills. So I'd put an alignment stick out in front of the ball line and say, hey, learn to start at left of that. So that can be as the least amount of technical as you want to take them through. So just, hey, start at left of that stick. And that's going to help them rotate the forearms. It's going to help them understand that get the toe of the golf club to beat the heel, especially if they're kind of holding on to that club through impact. But I would teach that kind of stuff very externally as opposed to perhaps internal. But yeah, just understanding how to close that face. So get it starting left of the target would be one way I'd do it.
What if they're doing that by just throwing the right hand at it and closing the face like that?
Throwing the right hand. So completely rolling over.
Well, not even rolling over, just doing that. That's going to close the face. Just throwing the right hand
with the right hand?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they could be doing that, obviously, yep.
How would you teach them out of that? Like, now they're getting no forward shaft lean, their low points move backwards.
I'm
always curious about that. Yeah, of course. My new question that I've asked the last couple of guests is, all right, let's say we're okay with setup grip, backswing, even downswing shape. They're still throwing the club, handles backing up, low points backwards. How are you going to produce more shaft lean and more of a low point that's more forward as they square the face? Any drills or anything you can come up with?
Are they backing up their upper body?
Nope. Everything looks great, but they're still throwing it.
Interesting. How would you do it?
I'm not the guest.
I'm asking you. I want to learn from you right here.
Okay. Well, so, all right, I'll give you, in my opinion, this actually, I've talked to Scott Calx a lot about this, is they're producing, be a little technical, producing net force across the shaft, right? So the right hand and or the right arm is either extending and obviously the right wrist is moving towards flexion. Okay. You with me?
Yep.
So we're going that way. So it's pushing against the shaft, which is overtaking the left, and the left wrist is moving towards extension too early, right? So what's that going to do to the low point? That's going to move it backwards. Okay. So they're either going to hit it thin or they're going to hit it fat, or it could even close the face, which I would call the wrong way to close the face, and the ball could go left. Right. So I do a series of sort of trail arm, trail hand drills. I'll actually share this one thing that I've kind of found, and I wanted anybody that's listening to this message me whether I'm on the right track or not. But what I've found is even a good grip that looks okay, if the handle's too much up into the meat of the hand, not so much as like completely palm, but out of the fingers. Okay. And I've seen this actually happen in mid downswing where players will go from here, it's hard for me, and then they'll literally change it and grab it, whether it's a strength issue or whatever. They tend to throw it more often than somebody that actually has the secure grip in the right fingers, especially the middle two fingers. I call it Spider-Man, right? So I will give them drills. One, I'll give them an open hand drill, which you know is the hell drill that Scott Calx talks about, okay? Which again causes better body motion, better pivot, but also every time you do that, which kind of proves the point of like what causes that backward shaft lean, the shaft always leans more forward, right? Because their lead arm is doing more of the work, right? So that's why I preach that the lead hand and the lead arm, their forearm rotation, pronation, supination controls the face of the club, okay? Because when the right hand takes over, then we have problems down by the ball, right? So that's step one. Step two is Spider-Man, which I let them grab it with their middle two fingers. The rest of the fingers are off, okay? And then teach them how to do it. And we'll do it slow. We'll do 3/4, sort of half, 3/4 drills doing this, depending on the level of the player. And I've seen that help. Again, don't say this is the answer to everything, but it's like, this is a conundrum that I think is very, very difficult for us as coaches, right? So then after that, I'll say, okay, now put your right hand on there. I mean, what I found is like, a lot of times they'll go, oh, I'm just going to like be super light with my right hand. And that's not always the answer because they're going to grab it regardless when they come down, right? They have to. Studies show. So I would say you've got to have a good firm grip with the fingers because most people don't realize they can fake you out as it looks like a good grip, but they've got that thing sticking up into the middle of their hand and they grab it like a baseball bat. And sure enough, that thing's going to be tossed early. Right. So then I go and transition into like, sort of Tommy Fleetwood punch shot drills where they can actually start to lean it. So, but it's not always body motion. It's not always sequence because I'm a candidate because I don't get super open at impact. I've never tossed it. I got more forward shaft lean and I could sell it. Right. So it's like, it's not always just getting your chest open and having perfect sequence but I think it's training the hands. Because most people growing up, whether they started the game young or they started late in life, they've never been educated on how they actually use the hands and the forearms and the wrist. So that's why I asked the question. Sorry to take over the deal, but I'm kind of passionate about that piece. But I'm learning. I don't know.
Good.
I mean,
well, that's why I said to you, like, are they backing up? Because if they were backing up the upper body, right? So if they come in and they're like side bending to the right, I would have literally had said, help them pivot more around the corner. And obviously, you mentioned hell drill there. I've given that to a lot of players. And I always mention Scott Calx with that drill because you can't back up and do hell drill. Like, it's very, very difficult.
Right. The hands separate, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So to square it up, like, obviously, when you were saying there, how would you close the face? Like, I was taking that as, well, if I kind of move that chest through, I'm assuming more shaft lean going to keep the face a bit more open.
Not always.
That's not always the case.
That's exactly. That's the problem we need to solve, right? Body rotation gives you a small contribution to club face closure. But I always go back to like, what's connecting the tool, man? It's like the hands have to. So like I teach people, what's flexion feel like? What's that supination, pronation feel like to close the face? Because you don't have people, at least the people that I'm teaching the majority of the time can't move. Like they can't, they're not going to be super dynamic. You better train their hands and arms. And I think Calx and shout out to Calx again. This is the book drill.
You have to get him on again.
The book drill. Yeah, I know. Well, he's been on twice. It's unbelievable. So the book drill is huge, right? I give that to people that don't have that ability to rotate and have a very fast body pivot. You can still create some forward shaft lean, but you have to kind of educate them to what does that feel like? What does a flat to bowed left wrist feel like? What does a bent right wrist feel like? Moving around obviously is a big part of that. Do you ever miss like having technology when you teach? Like TrackMan, radar, or anything?
Yeah, so I've actually started getting quite a lot of students who have their own radars. So they've got better setups than me, mate. Like, they've got their own home setups. Like, I've got my own TrackMan behind me there, but I use it with Gav, my tour player, and I still play around with it a lot, just, working on my own stuff. But yeah, a lot of players, like obviously now they're in the winter in the States as well, right? Like they go to simulator rooms and they still throw me all the numbers, which I love. So yeah, I don't personally use it a lot now, obviously with in-person coaching, but I still have or a lot of students that do use it. So yeah, that's fine. That's no troubles there. Guys with hack motion, things like that. So
do you ever do FaceTime lessons with the guys, or
yes,
that's probably a little easier where you can, get at least some real-time feedback of their questions and reactions? Probably, I would say that has to be a part of it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So part of that premium plan that I have has a Zoom call once a month in it. So, and I always say this to my players, like, if you need anything, mate, just give me a yell. I'm happy to jump on for 10 or 15 minutes. Like, it's fine. Like, I'm not just going to hold you to, you must have one and one only. Like, no, I've got to do what's best for the player. And if they're confused, like, I had a student this morning, mate, who was asking me he just wasn't sure on why we were steepening the club at P3 because it was super flat and things like that. So I just did a video for him. I didn't need to, but I just did a video and was like, hey, mate, here's exactly why we're doing it. And hopefully he appreciates that and it clears up some stuff. It's easy to do. It just, you just got to care about what you're doing. Which I do.
Absolutely. You clearly do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's such a cool thing. And I think it's the modern golf instructor now, right? It's like a lot of stuff has gone online. So it'll be interesting to see if you ever do go back out in the field, like how that changes anything, right? I mean, how you present a lesson. I'm sure the structure will stay the same, but be curious to get that feedback in a few years if you ever get back out there.
Yeah, I still do a couple. Like, I've got some students that I still take to a range kind of not too close to me. It's like half an hour away. When I do that, I find in-person lessons super easy in regards to communication. I think just because of the amount of online stuff that I do, communication becomes really easy. I often find, obviously, if you're just working on the range, of course, that like I can get what I need done in 15 to 20 minutes with that student. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I've still got 40 minutes with them, and you're watching them do their drills and you're doing some random practice and competitive practice with them. But yeah, like I'm so used to online, do the analysis, send them the drills, and then when they send that video back, we can analyze. So yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to both styles of coaching. Sure. I'm not going to sit here and say online's the greatest thing on earth. There are some cons to it, but there's also cons to in-person stuff too. And there's pros to both as well.
You missed the golf course a little bit as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Playing lessons.
Yeah.
Are you playing at all nowadays, or are you just grinding out lessons all day and doing that? You probably don't have how much time, just like we do.
Yeah. I'd like to play a little bit more and start practicing a little bit more. I've got to make it a priority. At the moment, the last 14 to 15 months, my coaching business has been a massive priority of mine, and I've been doing a lot in that time. So golf's taken a bit of a back step, but new clubs arriving very, very soon with PXG. So that's surely got to get me out there, right? That gets the golfer excited for sure.
That'll help.
If that doesn't, mate, then I'm going to just not do it. So, but no, I'll get out there. I play with Gav every now and again as well. So we go out and have a laugh. So yeah.
Good for you. Yeah, you got to keep that spark alive, right? Remember what we started this thing for. I know I forget that as well. It's easy to get caught up.
I think it's important too to keep your skills in order as well. You don't want to be trying to demonstrate something to someone and you can't do it, So I'd like to do a few golf trips and things like that in the coming years and take some students to some nice places. And for me, I hate playing bad at nice places. It ruins the experience a little bit. So I'd still love to play well.
Got to come back to the States, man. Got to do another trip.
I'm coming. You'll be on the list for me to pester. Don't worry.
I hope so. I look forward to that. So if you had to do it again, like advice to young coaches, as we always get that question, would you have done anything differently, or what would you advise a newer coach getting into the game and wants to improve their skills?
I think it depends on the goals of that coach, first things first. But if you want to be one of the best coaches out there, obviously being one of the best coaches out there nowadays is different. There's the YouTube game, there's the social media content game, there's being a coach's coach game. So I think just do a lot of lessons. Like ultimately, this is what every coach is going to say, right? But do a lot of lessons. You have an opportunity then to duff up a lot. You have an opportunity to have a lot of successful days in your coaching, but try to learn as much as you can, but come up with your style. Don't just bounce around from, hey, Dana does this, so I'm going to do that. Oh, but Scott Calx does that, I'm going to do that. Oh, but, take what they've given you and apply it to what you think you need to do with a student. And just realize that the more you think you know, the less you know. Like when I went to the States, I was just like, man, I don't know anything. So I need to come back and do another trip. So, because I still don't know anything, I just learned something from you there today. So
that's a wise attitude though.
Yeah. And I don't say to anyone that I know everything. Like I think if you say that as a coach, mate, you may as well not be a coach. You may as well just stop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I'm okay being wrong as well. Like if I'm wrong, like I want people to message me and say, hey, dude, you're wrong on that. Like you're actually wrong. Cool. What's correct then? So I don't do it again.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. And like you said earlier, like we've got to fail a lot to actually feel like we have a few successes and a few wins. Was there any time in your journey, let's say before you started online, that you failed, but you learned from that experience and felt like it helped you be a better teacher or a better coach?
No, I don't think so. I don't view anything that I've done as a fail because obviously whatever's come from it, I'm here today doing what I'm doing. And that's what got me on the podcast with you right here today. Like maybe if I didn't do something, then I wouldn't be right where I am today. So yeah, I mean, looking back, I think everything I've done each minute of the day, each hour of the day, every choice that I've made has brought me to right now. So maybe a different decision would have sent me elsewhere. So I don't regret anything, and I don't feel like I ever really failed with something. I learned a lot, but I wouldn't say failed, apart from the Uber driver sending me on the wrong way of the highway. That was a fail. That was a fail.
That was out of your control, though.
Yeah, that was.
You're lucky to be alive. Yeah. All right. So anything that I haven't asked you or any topic that you want to discuss before we wrap up? I appreciate your time. This has been a lot of fun. I look forward to future conversations and getting to know you even more, but I think it's been fantastic.
I think we've covered a lot. Yeah, if anyone wants to send me a message, send away and I'll try and help. And I appreciate you inviting me on. It's been great.
Absolutely. So you got to answer the last question first, and you know what's coming before we give out your social handles. But if you had to get a message to the world, billions of people, put it on a billboard, what would your billboard say and why? Any favorite quotes or mantras, anything, it doesn't have to be just a golf thing. It could be something that you live your life by. I mean, I think those are always fascinating.
Oh, man. There's so many, but there's also not enough. Like, I'd just say work your ass off. Like, I'm a big fan of just putting in the work. That might be a bit of a dumb one. I'm not sure, but
no.
Yeah, just it depends on who you're targeting, right? Like, it depends on who you're targeting, but patience and discipline, those are some big things that I live by as well. So in a world that we want everything so fast, we want it all at a click of a button, we want it for free. At the end of the day, you got to work your backside off and you got to have some patience and discipline.
Love it, man. Well said. And you're clearly doing that, man. That's it's an honor to be with you tonight. And I'm really respect what you're doing and the work you've put in. So keep it up and let me know if I can help you in any way. Hopefully we can meet in person someday.
Absolutely, mate. I'm thinking about coming over to the PGA show. So obviously it's a bit further away than like a swim across the ocean, but I'm thinking about it. So let me get
Definitely
my ducks in a row
and
I'll see you there. Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Awesome, man. We'll give out your social handles and your website and how they can come work with you or online work with you and how they can follow you, because I think you're a great follow. Good content.
All my social handles basically is just Ryan Mouque Golf. So Mouque being Mouque. So Ryan Mouque Golf pretty much on every platform, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. And my website is just info@ryanmouquegolf.com.au. And I've got all my coaching things on there. I do all my coaching through Skillest. Yeah, I'm very thankful for the platform because without it, I wouldn't be here today. So really appreciate that. And, if anyone's got any questions, please send them in. If you disagreed with anything I said, happy to have a conversation about it. I will be the first one to tell you I'm not right on everything I say. So very much open to being proven wrong and to learn more. So it's good.
Thank you, my friend. Great to be with you, and I appreciate your time.
All right, mate. Thank you so much for having me.
What's up, everyone? Guru back here again with a couple of things before you jump off. First, big thank you to Ryan for coming on the show and sharing his incredible insight about golf instruction, his business, coaching, and life in general that I know will help you all become better coaches and better human beings. Make sure you follow Ryan on the gram and Twitter or X at Ryan Mouque Golf, and check out his website at ryanmouquegolf.com if you want more information about him. It's got some great modules on there, some practice plans, or if you want a lesson, go check them out. Thanks again to our new sponsor, Istruzi. Make sure you go download the app and check it out. Look in the show notes as well for the link, and make sure you add that asterisk after your name so we know that you heard it from the Golf Guru Show. You can also follow me and reach me on Twitter or Instagram at Golf Guru TV. That's Golf Guru TV. If you have a question or comment, email the show, golfgurushow@gmail.com, or just hit me up on the DM. I will try to answer you as soon as I can. This episode was produced by Joel North. Thank you, Joel, for your continued excellent work and future work on the podcast. Music was brought to you by Kevin MacLeod and Zach Mullett. And leave me an iTunes review. That would be awesome. Let's see if we can get the rankings up a little bit. Let you know that I am #1 in China. Just found that out the other day, so that's pretty cool. So let's see if we can move up the ranks in some of these other countries. So I appreciate everybody for the support and for listening. And as I always leave you with, study, practice, teach, and then make sure you pass it on. I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening.